The United States in the 20th century.
Some of the events where the United States were involved were First World War, Second World War, the Great Depression, the Cold War, and the human rights. The main powers in the battle were the Allied powers, France, Britain, Russia, and the United States, versus the Central powers, Germany, the Ottoman Empire, and Austro-Hungary. Since the war started, the US was growing its economy by providing supplies to the Allies, so when the US entered World War I in the year 1917, the US Army supplies and firepower helped more the Allies to create a bigger strength. The continuation of the submarine warfare that later attacked US boats because they were in the German blockade caused many killings of citizens and many of the US Navy. So World War I was basically consisting in governmental problems and revolutions between the countries that were involved in the war.
The Great Depression began in late 1929 when the US stock market crashed known as the Black Tuesday, and it quickly spread worldwide. Some causes of the Great Depression were tariffs and war debt policies that cut down the foreign market for US goods, a crisis in the farm sector, availability of easy credit, unequal distribution of income, unemployment rising, and overproduction of everything.
World War II started on September 1, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland. This caused Britain and France to declare war on Hitler's Nazi Germany. The US didn't officially enter the war until December 7, 1941, when the Japanese bombed a naval base in Pearl Harbor. 4 days later, Nazi Germany and its Axis partners declared war on the US. Months later, the US started using a strategy called island hopping, in which they gained control of small islands on the Pacific, in which they could use for bases for bombers that would then attack Japan. The US were involved in 3 major battles in the Pacific, including the Battle of Coral Sea, the Battle of Midway, and the Battle of Guadalcanal. In 1942, the US entered the European theater, where they fought the Nazis for the first time in North Africa in the Operation Torch. The US and the Allies spent most of 1943 fighting in Scilly, where they defeated Italy and Germany and took control of the island. Finally, in June 6, 1944, the US joined British and Canadian forces in the Battle of Normandy, also called D-Day. Allied forces landed in 5 separate beaches in Normandy, France. By the end of August, all France was liberated and the Allies advanced from the east to bring the ends to the Nazi Reich. Still, this was not the end of World War II. The Battle of the Pacific was still being fought between the US and Japan, until the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August 6 and August 9, 1945. World War II officially ended on September 2, when Japan surrendered and the US won the war on the Pacific.
The Cold War was a conflict between the United States of America and the Soviet Union, and has been one of the greatest conflicts in world history. It was known as a war of ideologies because the United States feared the spread of communism throughout the world, while the Soviet Union was afraid of capitalism spreading to its unified states and Eastern European countries in general. The arms race was growing more and more, with new nuclear weapons being developed and more weapons in general. The US was one of the 3 leaders of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization along with Great Britain and France. Supporting countries from the United States were also afraid of communism. And also, the US played a very important role in 3 of the most important proxy wars of the Cold War. In 1947, President Harry Truman established the Truman Doctrine, where the United States would grant monetary services to countries threatened by communism in order to stop it from growing and gaining more land throughout the world. In 1948, there was another plan very similar to this one, the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan stated that the United States would provide $13 billion to Western European countries damaged by warfare.
The Cold War helped the scientific world in a great deal. New technologies were invested as tons of cash flowed from the funding to new experimental technologies. The USA made great progress in this as it was able to develop a successful nuclear program. They lost the space race as the USSR placed a man on space first, but they were able to beat them to the moon. The US was involved in 3 major proxy wars: the Korean War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Vietnam War, all against its former ally, the Soviet Union. Both crossed paths as they each tried to spread throughout the world, one communism and one capitalism, but eventually met and the confrontation began. The USA was greatly benefited economically, socially, and politically. New alliances, trade deals, and enabled it to spread its influence to Europe and the rest of the world. This eventually made the Soviet Union collapse, and communism was neglected as its greatest supporter had failed.
On 1948, the American Declaration of Rights of Man and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are adopted. The United States leads the efforts to draft both documents. USA was one of the leaders in creating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The US has not ratified most of the major human rights
created using Powtoon.